Welcome back to the FabuPRO online course. Today we are going to be talking about shapes and designs. You want to make sure that you are choosing the correct design for each eye shape. This can actually make your business or break it. I know I've been saying this a lot, but it's true. Everything that we are teaching you guys, it's because it's very important in learning how to become an eyelash technician. There are three different shapes of eyes. There is the upward, the straight, and the downward eye shape. I'm gonna be showing you guys three different styles that you can use with these types of shapes. You cannot use these designs with every single shape just because you have to keep different characteristics in place. We are going to teach you how to determine which design to use for each eye shape. I'm going to have you take a piece of paper and draw on it. I'm not the best person to draw or write, so bear with me. I'm gonna show you the way that I remember these shapes and designs. Let's get started. So you wanna go ahead and start with the upward eyes, and you are going to draw them where they are slanted upwards. So this is the inner corner, and this is the outer corner. So they're going upwards. With the upward shape, you can use any type of design. You can use a cat eye, you can use the doll eye, and you can also use a fox eye. As you can see, the outer corner is kind of pointing upwards. Now we're gonna go to straight eyes, and you want to make sure that the inner corners and outer corners are straight. So if you draw an arrow across them, the inner corner and the outer corners come together. This is when the outer corners and inner corners meet horizontally. It is not rare in any way. For straight shaped eyes, you can use both the doll eye and the fox eye. For straight eyes, you also want to make sure that you are choosing something that also just picks up their eye and opens it up. You just basically want to make sure that you know how to determine each eye shape before you choose a design. Now for the downward eyes, you want to make sure that the inner corner and outer corner slant downwards. Like that. Downward eyes, this is a very tricky one because sometimes you want to do something different, but at the end of the day, I would only go with a doll eye design. Why? Because with a downward eye, it's basically when the inner corners are actually higher up than the outer corners. Choosing the correct design for each shape is actually going to enhance that person's eye. You want to make sure that you are always making the correct decision. That is why my CEO always says, if you're ever in doubt, go with a doll eye. Cat eye, I'm pretty sure you guys all know this. It starts longest length on the outside and the shortest length in the inside. I would always use, if somebody has very small eyes, that could be an exception, but I would always say to use at least more than 4 blocks. You want to make sure that it's very nice and blended. With cat eye, it's also a little bit more difficult, so I would not go ahead and do that unless I am completely comfortable with doing a cat eye. I have at least 4 blocks on this blueprint. So what I mean by boxes is when you are creating a blueprint, you are going to have a certain amount of blocks where you are going to have specifically a certain length. And right here I even put a note, no less than 4 blocks. If you do less than 4 blocks, the extensions themselves may not blend as well as they would blend if this had at least 4 blocks. Now you can go ahead and do 3 blocks if you wanted to, if that was something you were more comfortable with, but for my experience, it always just works best if I always do at least 4 blocks or more. If that person were to have a longer lash line, then I would go ahead and add just a small block right in the inner corner. That could even be like a 9mm, so it's gonna be pretty short. It starts out longer in the outer corner and shorter in the inner corner. This is exactly what you're going to see. You wanna make sure that the blocks are very similar to each other. Obviously, I added an extra one on this side. No 2 eyes are going to be exactly the same, but we do want them to look as similar as possible. Fox eye is basically when the longest length is right under the arch of the brow. The arch of the brow is right here, and that is where my longest block is. So you can even measure it with a pen. You want to start right under the arch of the brow, and it's technically right here. Let's say you want to do like a size 13. You are deciding on this length right here. So if you decided that you wanted to do something more natural and you decided with a 13mm, then you are going to go just 1 length longer right underneath the arch of the brow. I would really practice doing the fox eye before I do it on a actual guest. Why? Because fox eye is a little bit more tricky, just as cat eye is as well, which is why we always say if you're ever in doubt, do a doll eye. I'm gonna keep saying that because it's always good to do something you're more comfortable with something that is a little bit more easy for you, rather than doing something that is difficult and it does not come out right. And you wanna make sure that your guest is completely happy with the service. Now for fox eye, I would recommend that you use this design on eye shapes that are either straight or upward. I would not use this on somebody that has a downward shaped eye because it's going to make them look even more droopy, and like I said, that's something that you really want to avoid. Now let's begin to describe the doll eye design. The doll eye design is when the eyelash extensions are longer right above the pupil and it's shorter in the inner corners and outer corners. This design actually suits every single person. Like our CEO always says, if you're ever in doubt, go with a doll eye because it's really easy, especially if you are a beginner. Now doll eye you can use on every single shape of eye. You can use for the upward eye, you can use for the straight eye, and you can also use for the downward eye. Doll eye is basically when the center block is going to be the longest block. And then we're going to go based off the pupil. So if the pupil is right here, you can go ahead and measure it, even if it's with your finger or with a pen. And then you go ahead and create that center block. What I usually do for the blocks on the outside, I just divide them in 2 so that they're even. So I just divide them, and even if you wanted, you can add another block. But for the doll eye, I would also suggest for you not to use anything less than 5 blocks. Let's say that for this particular eye, we are going to use the longest at the center. It's going to be 15mm. And then in the inner corner, we're going to use 14 in one block and 13 in the other. Same thing for the outer corner, 14 and 13. Let's say you wanted to use 16mm on somebody else. You can use 16 Then we're gonna go 15 and 14 on the outer corners. 15, 14, and you can even add a 13 if their natural lashes are very short. So these would be two different guests. You can use 16 millimeters, and then another guest you can use 15. It just depends on each guest that you have. For the upward eyes, you can use any of these three designs and blueprints. You can use the cat eye, you can use the fox eye, you can use a doll eye. Now, obviously, keep in mind that the fox eye, you're mostly using it if that person has a nice arch of the brow. For straight eyes, you can use these two designs. You can use fox eye, and you can also use the doll eye. Now, for the fox eye, like I have said, I would not use this if the person does not have a nice arch brow, because it's just gonna look weird. So always make sure that you take a look at that. It's always best for you to go with a doll eye, especially if they don't have a nice arch of the brow. Downward eyes, you don't want to do anything else than a doll eye. Why? If you do a cat eye, this is going to make the eyes look even more droopy than what they already look like. You want to make sure that you are lifting their eye. This is why we always do the doll eye based off the pupil. What you're gonna do is you're going to lift up the center right here. And like I said, you're going to divide these two. Remember, this is where you can use models that can come in. You can charge them either nothing, or you can charge them at least $25, $50, whatever you're comfortable with. But you need to let them know that you are a beginner and that they are going to be a model. How can you determine what type of shape your guest might have? Now, do you remember when we took pictures of our guests facing forward? What we're gonna do is we're gonna use that face forward picture, and you're going to look just straight at their eyes. So you can even zoom in to where it only shows both of their eyes. And in some cases, you also want to make sure you have the eyebrows in there. If you're doing a fox eye, you want to make sure that you're doing the correct design. You want to see if the inner corner matches to the outer corner, if it goes up or down. That is basically how you determine what shape they might have. This is when you're going to choose the best design that fits them. Make sure that you try on the length or curl, even at least one or two right at the center of the eye, or wherever it's going to be the longest length, to make sure that you are using the correct length and curl. Once you apply the extension, you can let it dry for at least 1 minute and have them open their eyes and have them look up, have them look straight towards you, just so you can get like a feel of how their extensions are going to look once they are completely filled in. I've been doing this for quite a while, so I know just right off the bat I can see somebody and I'm like, oh, they're gonna use the doll eye and they can do top size 15 millimeters. That takes time. At first, I promise you, you're going to feel a little bit frustrated because you don't want to make mistakes. If you really don't know what shape you should do, go with the doll eye. I'm telling you right now, doll eye is the best way to go. And also with the curl, I've said this already, if you are just not sure, make sure you go with something that is more comfortable for you. If you want to do a D curl but you're not really sure, go ahead and try a C curl for the first time. Next time you'll definitely know what will look best on your guest. When it comes to working with somebody, with an actual guest, go with something that you're very comfortable with. You don't want to do something that you're trying out for the first time on someone who is actually paying for the service, because They want something that makes them look beautiful. They want something that enhances their beauty. At the end of the day, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are choosing everything correctly. It is your job to use this course as a guide. We want to make sure that you are the best eyelash technician out there. Do not hesitate to ask any questions. This is what we are here for. We love to answer your questions. The group is really very helpful for a lot of people. We've been seeing the progress. It really warms up our hearts because we see that you guys have started from the bottom, not knowing how to do eyelash extensions, to actually getting to try it on a live model. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions. Join our Facebook group. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so that you guys are notified whenever we post another video.